Knock, knock. Who's there? Opera. Opera who? Operant conditioning is today's topic. And if you're still with me, I am Dr. Igor Yurichevich, and this is Behavior Modification. Let's go. All right, so we're going to delve into behavior modification today by taking a look at a very important phenomenon that is known as operant conditioning. Now, what operant conditioning is, and we're going to go to Cooper, Heron, and Heward, and they mentioned that operant conditioning refers to the process and selective effects of consequences on behavior. A functional consequence is a stimulus change that follows a given response closely in time and alters the occurrence of similar responses in the future. So that is what we're going to be focusing on. And the thing to take away from that while we begin is that operant conditioning is behavior modification that focuses on the effects of consequences of behavior. So this is the aspect of behavior modification that focuses on how consequences shape and influence and modify any behavior. And it also includes the fact that these consequences alter the occurrence of similar responses in the future. So we're going to take a look at both of those aspects of operant conditioning, the fact that consequences cause effects on behavior, that consequence is a stimulus change. So the consequence of a behavior changes something in the environment, and that change alters the occurrence of similar responses in the future. And we are going to illustrate all of this, and we're going to go through all of this by taking a look at something that I think all of us have done, and that is participate in the knock knock joke. So if you know how a knock knock joke works, you know that you don't actually have to go out and knock on someone's door. Rather, it's just a format that all of us are familiar with. All of us have done this. Our behavior has been modified in a way that we have all participated in the knock knock joke. So let's start off with an example, and then we're going to take a look at principles of operant conditioning as illustrated by that knock knock joke. So let's start here. We got two friends, and one of them initiates the joke and says, knock knock. The other one says, who's there? Normally. Normally who? Normally I'd call first, but I had to see you. And then we have the aftermath of the joke, which is hilarity, I believe, 9 times out of 10 when doing the knock knock joke. So let's take a look at how that behavior, the telling of the knock knock joke, is actually modified and what would make it increase in its probability. That is, what would make you more likely to tell a knock knock joke, and what would make it decrease in probability. What would make it less likely to tell that knock knock joke? All right, so first off, we have behavior, we have a consequence, and we have an effect. So those are the elements of operational or operant conditioning. We have behavior, consequences, and effect. In this case, the behavior is telling a knock knock joke. So the behavior under investigation here, the target behavior, the behavior that we're interested in, is the person saying the knock knock joke. Now, this is an important thing to identify and to point out, because there are myriad behaviors occurring. There are multiple behaviors occurring in this exchange. So when we analyze the effects of a behavior, or when we analyze behavior modification, we always have to be very specific about what behavior are we analyzing. So in this case, we're analyzing the behavior of the person telling the joke. We're analyzing the person that actually is saying knock knock. Normally I'd call, but I had to see you. We're analyzing that person's behavior. So in this case, the behavior is the telling of a knock knock joke. The consequence of this behavior was laughter. So in this case, it was a successful joke. It elicited laughter. So the consequence of this behavior is laughter. So we have the behavior telling a knock knock joke, and then the consequence of that behavior is laughter. So that consequence is the stimulus change. That consequence, laughter, is a change in the environment. Laughter has been introduced to the environment. That is that stimulus change. And then operant conditioning means that this consequence is going to alter the occurrence of future responses of this behavior, of this joke. So the effect of this is that telling a knock knock joke will increase in probability. So this person that told that knock knock joke, she is way more likely to tell her friend another knock knock joke because of the consequence of her behavior. So we had the behavior, telling a joke, we had the consequence, laughter, and then because of that laughter, through operant conditioning, telling a knock knock joke by this individual increases in probability, where she is more likely to say another knock knock joke in the future. All right, and this brings us now to the three-term contingency that is often used to frame an operant conditioning situation. So this three-term contingency, again, Cooper, Heron, and Heward have outlined this. This three-term contingency is sometimes called the ABCs of behavior analysis. And what we have is the three-term contingency of antecedent, behavior, and consequence. So A for antecedent, B for behavior, and C for consequence. And those are the way that we describe the contingency that is going on in operant conditioning. So let's take a look at each of these in turn. And again, we'll start off with behavior. So we'll start off with B. B is for behavior. B, the behavior is the behavior that leads to the consequences. So again, we have to make sure that we identify and are very specific about this behavior. So the behavior under investigation, the behavior under analysis, sometimes referred to as the target behavior, that is the B of the ABC, antecedent behavior consequence formulation. So in this case, the behavior is the telling of the knock knock joke. C, consequence, the consequence of the behavior is the effect the behavior had on the environment. So it brought about a stimulus change. So in this case, the effect of the behavior, what follows the behavior, is laughter from the person that the joke was told to. So that is the C component of this ABC three-term contingency. And then importantly, we have the A. Now we saved the A to last because we kind of need the B and the C in place to understand it. A is the antecedent. And this is the stimulus that either increases or decreases the probability of the behavior. So the antecedent is the thing in the environment. It's the stimulus that whose presence either increases the probability that the behavior will occur or decreases the probability that the behavior will occur. So this antecedent, also known as the discriminative stimulus, this again is a stimulus that's in the environment that would either increase or decrease, basically has control over whether that behavior occurs. So in this case, the girl that laughed, the girl that the joke is being told to, she is a discriminative stimulus that increases the probability of the response. So because of the consequence of the behavior, because this person laughed, the joke teller is more likely to tell her more jokes in the future. She has become an antecedent that increases the probability of this joke telling response. And that occurred because of the consequence, which was the laughter. So now we have that three-term contingency. Antecedent is this particular individual who laughed at the joke. Behavior is telling the joke, and the consequence was laughter. We have those three terms of this operant conditioning contingency. All right, now we mentioned that an antecedent or discriminative stimulus can either increase or decrease the probability of a response. So let's take a look at an example now where it actually decreases the probability of a response. And we're going to do that by taking a look at this joke teller's other friend. So let's go through the entire procedure again. So we have the behavior. We have the girl saying, knock, knock. Her friend replies, who's there? Normally, yes, he's trying the same joke on again. Normally who? Normally I'd call first, but I had to see you. However, this time we do not get laughter. This time the consequence of this joke is an aggressive stare. So the friend is just kind of staring her down, barely mobile, not laughing, not having a good time. In this case, we have an aggressive stare. And the result of this, the consequence of this consequence, is that the probability of the joke telling goes down. So this joke teller, instead of saying, hey, you know what, let me tell you another one, now she's like, what do you want to do now? So again, we can analyze this in terms of the three-term contingency, in terms of that antecedent behavior consequence, ABC of behavior analysis. And once again, we start with the behavior. Now, in this case, notice that the behavior has not changed. The behavior is the joke telling. And this behavior, the target behavior, the behavior under analysis, leads to a consequence. However, this time the consequence is different. So instead of the consequence being laughter, the consequence now is that aggressive stare, that stare down that occurs. No laughter. Person is basically immobile. Aggressive stare. That is the consequence of the joke telling. And because of that consequence, this person will not be telling jokes to this individual anymore. So the joke teller is not going to be telling jokes to this one of her friends in the future. The probability of that joke telling behavior has gone down. And that means that this friend that did not laugh, that stared her down aggressively, she has become a discriminative stimulus. She is now an antecedent in whose presence the probability of joke telling has decreased. So in this case, we have one antecedent, we have one individual that acts as a discriminative stimulus that increases the probability of the joke being told. And on the other hand, we have the other individual that has now become a discriminative stimulus, but importantly, a discriminative stimulus that decreases the probability that the behavior is going to occur, that decreases the probability that the behavior of joke telling will be carried out. So we have that ABC, antecedent behavior consequence formulation. In the one case, the antecedent, this particular listener, this particular audience, she is an antecedent for that increases the probability of the behavior of joke telling. The behavior is joke telling, and then the consequence is laughter. In this case, the antecedent is the individual who did not laugh. She decreases the probability of the joke telling behavior. The behavior is joke telling, and the consequence in this case was that aggressive stare. And there you have those ABCs analysis of that three-term contingency. All right, so that's what I wanted to cover today. So in today's class, all right, so that's what I wanted to cover today. So in today's video, we took a look at operant conditioning. We took our first look at operant conditioning, and we took a look at how consequences that follow a behavior can shape that behavior by either increasing the probability of the behavior or decreasing the probability of the behavior. And then we also took a look at the ABC, three-term contingency, antecedent behavior, and consequence, that allows us to analyze B, the behavior under analysis, that target behavior, C, the consequences of that target behavior, and then depending on the consequences, whether that behavior goes up or goes down, increases in probability or decreases, we have importantly the antecedent, which is the stimulus, in this case, different members of the audience, but the stimulus that will either increase the probability of the behavior occurring or decrease the probability of the behavior occurring. All right, so that's it for what I wanted to cover in today's video. So next time we're going to continue our look at operant conditioning by taking a look at the four basic contingencies of operant conditioning, being positive reinforcement, being positive punishment, negative punishment, and the often misunderstood negative reinforcement. But until then, I hope you have enjoyed this video, but more importantly, I hope you go out there and you do something with it. And until I see you next time, my name is Dr. Igor Yurichevich. Stay frosty and go modify some behavior. Okay. Oh, and eat a kiss. Delete a kiss.